Hey guys, I wanted to come on here and talk about this story. And this was a little bit earlier this month, but I noticed that I didn't see really anybody talking about it. And we, of course, can't expect to see this in the mainstream news. They would literally never release anything like this on the mainstream international news. And by that, I mean Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, all of these things that should be running this story. You have two U.S. soldiers who are said to be very patriotic, authority peoples, basically officers of the country, who are attempting to smuggle $1 million worth of cocaine from Colombia on some military planes. Now, this is really interesting because when we hear about drugs, although they have a drug epidemic going on right now, that's literally destroying the white community, we only hear about what they call the Pookie and Ray Ray thugs or whatever, and these things are related to black men. Now, these people are sitting up here who are in positions, they're working, they're supposed to be model citizens, work government jobs, really, smuggling $1 million worth of cocaine from Colombia in the country. Now, you have people who want to crack down hard on these drug dealers, the people who are selling it. But the reality of it is it always raises the question in the minds of smart people, of course, not in the minds of some dusties who are going to run around regurgitating white supremacist talking points, of who's bringing these things in the country. And I remember Taz saying something to that effect when he was in a debate with something, who's bringing these drugs into the country? Because, we know with the meth epidemic and heroin, those things can be made. You can't grow cocaine. The coca plant can't grow in America. It has to be in a tropical climate. So therefore it's in Colombia. It has to be getting here. You have criminalized soldiers bringing drugs into the country. So this clearly shows that you don't have just the Pookies and Ray Ray on a crime level. People see crime based on who's committing it. And they advertise crime based on who's committing the act too, because this should be something that's on every national news. It really should be. This should be on every national news, just based off the fact that these are military soldiers who are doing this. Now, it says 2 American Special Forces soldiers have pled guilty to conspiring to transport $1 million worth of cocaine from Colombia to the United States aboard a military transport plane. So these were not your so-called average criminals. They had every ability and every opportunity in life, but they still wanted to resort to crime. And that tells you because of who they are. It says former Master Sergeant Daniel Gould, 36, and Sergeant First Class Henry Royal were both Army Green Berets who were caught when they attempted to transport 90 pounds of cocaine via a military aircraft last year. Army Times reported this weekend. According to the report, the soldiers had already successfully trafficked a large quantity of the illicit drug from the South American country in the past, selling it to a distributor in Florida. Gould and Royal had previously transported 22 pounds of cocaine from the Colombian city of Cali to northwest Florida. They reportedly used a hollowed-out punching bag to conceal the drugs, which were transported to the U.S. In a bid to reinvest the money they made from the sale and make a larger profit, the two men attempted to traffic a larger quantity when they were caught. Okay? And so you have Adam Goldman doing it. But they said suspicion was aroused at the United States Embassy when packages were x-rayed, revealing cocaine within gutted-out punching bags, a release from the Justice Department stated. The drug trafficking soldiers now face up to 10 years in prison and will be sentenced on March 12. Cocaine production remains a pervasive problem in Colombia, despite decades of the government and the international community attempting to curb the trade. They're not going to curb the trade, though. And keep in mind, these U.S. soldiers, you have to ask, who are they bringing these in for? Were they bringing them in for their own personal profit, or were they bringing them in because the country benefits from the drug trade? That's what we have to understand. This country benefits from the drug trade, whether it be meth, whether it be cocaine. We know cocaine is a very popular drug, especially amongst white people and wealthy people. We also know that, weed, all of them, whatever, drugs are very high business, okay? The drugs have to come from somewhere. We know that they put crack in the community. That was the government doing too. So you have to ask, who are they doing these for? And I guarantee when somebody's bringing in that much cocaine, they look into who are, like, imagine you're Pookie and Ray Ray, whatever, for lack of a better word, on the street. They would want to know who's supplying them and go up the chain, because of course that matters. They always want to get the big person. Who are these U.S. soldiers working for other than the U.S. government? And who could they, either they're working for somebody who's in a drug cartel in the country or on behalf of the government, since they work for the government. And maybe now that this came out, they're like, oh, okay, well, let's just charge them and take the heat off of ourselves. It says a report released in September showed that the illicit industry is booming and continues to grow. In 2017, approximately 423 acres of land, an increase of 17% from the previous year, were used to grow coca plant. The report estimated that this would allow for the production of about 1,520 tons of cocaine, or an increase of 31% from 2016. So this is big money right here. They should be looking into, but they probably already know, they're not going to tell you who they're working on behalf of, other than the U.S., because I don't know if this was for personal profit, and we can't rule out the government having them go, U.S. soldiers go over to Colombia. We do know that happened in this case, and get drugs to bring over here. In October, the International Drug Policy Consortium, a global coalition of 170 non-governmental organizations working on drug policy issues, released a separate report pointing out that the global war on drugs had been a spectacular failure, leading to thousands of murder, public health crisis, and human rights abuses. Now, we know the war on drugs was created by the government. International efforts to fight drug trafficking actually resulted in a 145% increase in drug-related deaths over the past decades, according to the IDPC. Colombia's President Ivan Duque Marquez, who took office last year, has vowed with his government would implement a new strategy to address the illicit drug problem in his nation. Okay, we don't care about that. We want to know more about these soldiers bringing these drugs over to the country and who they're bringing them for, but they're not going to tell you. So these are the things that we need to consider rather than trying to, you know, out other Black people, because you're not going to see these things in the national news. So in order to change the narrative, what we should be doing is putting more focus on things like this and showing that you can have U.S. soldiers drug trafficking large quantities rather than hanging out Pookie and Ray Ray because they have a Black face on them. And you got a bunch of Dusties running around here being white supremacists and blackface, and now they want to sit here and perpetuate all this information and rhetoric against their own people. Meanwhile, this is out here and Black people are not taking social media as an opportunity to switch the narrative. We should be putting this out if they're not going to. But you guys let me know what you think of this. Thank you for your support. I'll see you in the next video.